hopefully I can speak to some of the ideas, but I'd like to return to the topic, which is, are there good reasons to believe in a God? And I'll have to see what you guys think. I didn't hear any reasons to believe in a God. I didn't hear any reasons to believe in a God. I heard a lot of reasons why it'd be nice if there was a God. I heard a lot of reasons that people should believe in a God because they might start raping and pillaging if they forget that there's a God. I didn't hear any reasons to believe in God. It might be true that if people stopped believing in God, if the whole world was atheist today, it might be true, that people would lose all sense of morality, panicking, everyone would die. It has no effect on whether or not there is or is not a God. You have to establish, why is the Bible true? They're assuming that the Bible is true. I assume I was converted right now, and I wish I could give them credit. But I converted myself because I realized through the logic, the Harry Potter series seems really true to me. So I'm going to base my worldview on that assumption. We have the trinity of Dumbledore and Harry and Hermione. And based on that assumption, I could pull a lot of different quotes out and justify a lot of different moral systems. Fortunately, I have such a strong, ingrained sense of humanistic morality that I'm probably going to choose the ones that already confirm what I believe. I am very grateful that they don't take most of the Bible literally. I'm wearing multiple colors, so due to Leviticus, I would be stoned to death if they followed the Bible literally. I would like to hear more reasons, and maybe in the Q&A even, of why the Bible should be regarded as true with regard to its concepts about God. For sake of argument, I think that if we want to argue about the historicity of the Bible, that's fine. That's Christmas morning for us. I don't think it's a very good historical document. But for sake of argument, let's say that Jesus died and was resurrected 3 days later. And let's say that there really was prophecy that was confirmed. That somebody really believed prophecy was confirmed. It has nothing to do with God. It has a psychic and somebody that came back from the dead. Why is there a God? What are the reasons to believe in a God? We have a framework. Things could be tested. You know, you could prove the history of the Bible. The Bible had talked about 6 Adams and 6 Eves. And then we find out later that there are 6 different mitochondrial Eves. We have mitochondrial DNA, which is only passed on from the mother, which they didn't know back then. Or if they predicted the internet, or if it predicted something that they didn't know. How interesting it is that the Bible reflects the knowledge of the time of highly illiterate Middle Eastern desert, where many revelations have occurred. I want to talk about this concept of human dignity because I find it rather insulting. The idea that Christianity has a monopoly on human dignity, or any religion for that matter. Let us remember what God we're talking about, the Christian God. This is a Christian God that cares what you do, watches you while you sleep, knows what you think and will convict you of thought crime, cares who you have sex with and in what position, cares if your baby boy has skin on the end of his penis. This is the God we're talking about, and yet we are free and we have dignity, and based on what we do on this tiny prick of life, this life, we can be condemned to an eternity for hell, some kind of a holy father. What father here would condemn their child to an eternity, no, a day, in burning agony in the basement for not respecting them, or not believing in them? Moreover, just the results of Christian doctrine. We have an anti-choice movement. It says a woman can't do whichever she wants with her body. You don't have the right to die. Terminally ill patients have to sit in enormous suffering and agony, humiliating agony, and this somehow constitutes human dignity? Humanism is the one positive that atheists like to put forward as positively. Atheism doesn't mean anything. You mean atheism be communist, atheism nihilist, atheism Republican. But humanism is all about human dignity and justifying human morality based on our common well-being, our self-interest. I want to survive. I don't want to suffer. I know you all don't want to suffer, so I want to build a world in which we can all survive. I want to speak really quickly to Juni's idea about HIV treatment and about medical ethics. There's a greater medical ethics analogy, which is that if I have 6 babies, 5 of them need an organ to survive, could I cut up the healthy one and let 5 others survive? Certainly the consequences are better, 5 survive instead of 1. But we don't want to live in a world in which somebody could randomly be cut up. We don't want to build a world where our empathy is so easily destroyed. And that is my response to that. This is a medical ethics question that I really didn't expect that. But again, I ask for reasons to believe in a God. Hopefully they can hear something. Thank you.
Hope you don't mind. I've got a lot of questions for you guys. So, the first is, in terms of ultimate questions, you guys have thrown out some phrases that I'm not sure how you would justify or give an account for, so I'll just ask you. I guess it's open to either of you, but I'll be specific who said what, so we'll remember that. Josh, I'll start with you. You said that we have an ethical imperative to reject something, and it was in the context of rejecting certain religious beliefs, I believe. But what is this ethical imperative? Where does it come from?
So what I was trying to describe was based on what Ben was talking about with the fact that beliefs have consequences, and so the idea of arriving at true beliefs was something that would be beneficial to us and something that we would want to strive for. And so I was saying there's an ethical imperative when it comes to what could be a false belief, and what I would want to argue is a false belief, like a belief in the eternal soul. And if we were to continue with that, it could do some sort of an ethical harm. Therefore, since good beliefs, since true beliefs are something that we want to be striving for, then there's some kind of an imperative for us to try to seek that truth and seek that what would then be good.
So, the belief in an immortal soul or an eternal soul, is that something that can be tested so that we can say, no, there is not, so we should not pursue that any further? It's a detriment to society, and we have this ethical imperative to try to reject or stamp it out.
No, and what I was trying to talk about before was more about that this was a part of the Christian worldview that I was assuming that you both were arguing from, and that is one part of a greater system that I think can do ethical harm as well as doing good. And what I was trying to describe in this kind of a case is that I'm not saying that I can disprove the existence of the eternal soul, but that to make a claim like something like the eternal soul, then I would need to see some sort of an evidence to try to make some kind of a counterclaim or to accept that idea.
Could you summarize what is your account for an ethical imperative? What's the ground by which
what I was trying to describe by an ethical imperative was just based off of Ben's argument. Beliefs have chime in if you feel like I'm not being fair with your argument, but beliefs have beliefs can be true or not. Beliefs have consequences. They can be true or not. We should be striving towards what is true so that we can make better decisions about how we live our lives. And because of that, then because it's based on that question of how we're living our lives and how we're interacting with each other, then we have an imperative, we have an ethical imperative then to be able to try and arrive at those kinds of grounded conclusions. It's ethical because it's dealing with our interaction with each other on a day-to-day basis.
I still hear you just describing the process of how we would come about reasoning our way to an ethical imperative, but I don't understand what the ground. Anyway, I'm going to the question. You can answer it maybe during.
Okay, I'll be happy.
I just want this one question to dominate, if you don't mind. Ben, I'll ask you a question. When you speak about hell, that's a great topic for discussion between Christians and atheists, and you describe it as abusive, God punishing someone. What is the reason that you believe Christians ascribe hell to God as punishment? What's the justice being served when someone goes to hell?
I don't believe there is a hell, or that
what do you believe that what do you believe that we believe about it?
I think that you would be the best person to answer, but if you told me that you believe in a hell, then I believe.
Okay. What I assume that you're saying, I'm just trying to get you to say instead of me assuming, is that hell is something unjust or something that no one should have to suffer, and it's God's fault and not anyone else's. But the way that I would just encourage anyone to think about theological issues is not by listening to what Ben says or any other atheist or professor who doesn't.
1 minute.
But study the Bible for yourself in terms of the issues of prophecies and miracles. Why is there a hell? God is making a presentation, an offer, and He's saying, I'm giving you water to drink in a desert. I'm giving you life when you're dying. If we reject that, we're rejecting what the solution is. So, in our understanding, hell would be just as everything that God offers, a free gift, a gracious gift. And instead of seeing Him as a cosmic child abuser, we're seeing Him as a loving Father who's reaching out to us when we're in need.
I can see him as a meatloaf, but that doesn't change what he is.
Christianity has a monopoly on human dignity. That was a statement that I'm not sure who made. Christianity is not claiming a monopoly on human dignity. We're claiming that we have a justifiable basis for human dignity that's not based on chemical reactions, cause and effect that started back in a Big Bang and continues in a chain reaction. We're saying we have a justifiable norm that we can point to for dignity, for ethical imperatives, for truth, all the terms that you guys are using. I agree with you that we should be seeking those things. I'm just saying we have a basis for it, and you haven't given one yet. Thanks.